Hey everybody, we are down at the square. We got news coverage here.
Hey y'all.
Kristen.
Hey. God bless Texas.
That's right. So we're down here for our Thursday evening Eat With Us on the Square. Have some speakers, there's gonna be a protest going on, and then we will be doing this every Thursday at about 5:30, start by 6, until these restaurants can be open 100%. We are supporting the restaurants that are open. Rebecca. So we are going to be also making these shirts. So we have Keep Texas Free with our website, and then we have the Texas Bill of Rights. This is probably going to be backwards on here, but that's okay. Article 1, sections 1, 2, 27, and 29. Those are things that everyone should know and that our Texas is based on. So look those up if you don't know them, or come get a shirt. So we are going to start here in a little bit, and I will go live when we have the speeches, and we hope to see you here.
I have been out a lot this week. And yesterday I was in Dallas, as y'all know, and I was out there for Shelly Luther. And
She's free.
yes, and she just was freed, I think about 2 hours ago, maybe. And so I was out there for 9 hours, and I'm one tired woman, but I'm one fired up woman. And it was awesome to be out there. I met her on Monday because I went and got my hair done with my friend Kevin. And I have to say, she is an amazing woman, and she's a very humble woman, and she has so much courage. And she has a salon that has mostly women of color working there. And these are women who were not able to feed their children and their grandchildren because they didn't qualify for unemployment. And we have people here in Tyler, and I just found out today, we have people here in Tyler who are in the same situation, and they're homeless, living on the streets now. And that's shameful. And so that's what Shelly's people were facing. And so that's why Shelly did what she did and had the courage to open her business, because she said this is unconstitutional what's happening. And she needed to feed her family, and she needed to take care of her employees so that they could feed their families. And these were all women of color, whether they were African American, Latina, or Asian. Now, something else I want to talk about is that we have Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and he was here last Saturday, and he said something at that speech. He said, "Where are all the men?" And I see a lot of men out here tonight, and I want to thank y'all for being here. And I know a lot of that has to do with our speaker, Mr. Stewart Rhodes from Oath Keepers.
Woo!
And so he's going to talk to you, because we talked about it last night when we were down in Dallas. And so he'll talk to you about his theory, is that we have a lot of mama bears.
Yes.
A lot of pit bull mamas. A lot of donkey mamas. Whatever you want to call them, because all mamas are fierce. When their children are in danger, women become fierce. Did y'all know that about us?
Yep.
I bet your mamas were fierce too. And so the women are leading this movement because we know that our republic is in danger, and that upholding and making sure that our republic stays intact through this is one of the most important things that we can do for our children. I know that there are a lot of men here today. I know that we need a lot more men to show up. But I also know that every revolution, there was a good woman behind a good man. And there are good men behind all of these women. And I know that my husband's been taking over a lot of what I normally do so that I can do all this and I can fight for freedom. Now, lastly, I want to say this. I've had people express that there's been some disappointment sometimes when we don't have a lot of people show up. But what I want you all to know is that for everyone here, there are thousands who you represent. When I was in Dallas for 9 hours yesterday, we stood on a corner just like this, except it was maybe a little busier because it's Dallas. And it's right in front of the jail. And it was a great corner to be on. And there were times where there were 5 of us, and there were times when there were 35 of us. But it didn't get to be more than 35. And what I learned that day, or yesterday, is that 5 people can make such a difference in this movement. If 5 people show up and stand on that corner with a sign, they will get so many thumbs up, so many honks, so many shout outs, because guess what? Those 5 people represent thousands.
That's right.
I can tell you that people who typically stand up for liberty tend to be conservative. And this is a movement that is for everybody. As long as you want to preserve liberty, your God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you are welcome here. You are welcome here, Thomas. Okay? All of you are welcome here. And we were told by this paper, no, Ben's going to leave. He's probably the only nice one over there, but the people that he works for, we were told they presented us as a fringe movement. We are not a fringe movement. We are not a bunch of conspiracy theorists. But are conspiracy theorists welcome here? Hell yeah, they are. Everybody's welcome here. Anybody who stands up for freedom, for liberty, you're welcome here. You are one of us. He presented people who showed up for freedom that day as a bunch of conspiracy theorists. We had an amazing man that day. And that amazing man doesn't, everybody is valuable. Everybody who showed up that day is valuable. We are all equal, okay? But we had an incredible man here in East Texas on Saturday, and that paper barely reported it. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He's an African American. He is a hero of war, and he's running for an important office in the state of Texas. And if he gets elected, it matters to East Texas. And that paper barely reported it. Instead, they chose to feature one person who went off script. We chose to give her a voice that day because, like I said, we're going to give everybody a voice. Mm-hmm. That's what freedom is all about.
Everyone deserves a voice.
Everybody has a voice. And I'm going to give all of y'all a voice, all right? The editor from Tyler Paper, from Tyler Telegraph, I sent them an email because they misquoted me.
Misquoted a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. You think anybody's going to misquote me without me saying something about it?
No, ma'am.
Nope.
No, ma'am. No, sir. Nobody's going to misquote me without me standing up for myself. But what I will tell you is that we have some good stations here. KLTV, they reported barely that day. If any of you ever talk to Tyler Paper or the Tyler Telegraph, record. Because I had a better recording than theirs, and so they ultimately had to correct the misquote. But when I called him on it, he refused to correct the misquote. And so I went to his editor. And what his editor told me, and I have it in writing, his editor told me that he was entertained by us that day. Well, you want to know what I told him? I don't get entertained by Texans suffering. I get inspired to do the right thing, but I don't find that entertaining. What I know about him is he has contempt for ordinary, everyday, working Texans And I know that he's very out of touch. Another thing I want to tell y'all that he told me is that he was going to look into our paper trail. Does that sound like a veiled threat?
Sounds like a threat to me.
Sure does.
Show your paper trail.
Well, you know what I want to tell him? Come and take it. Come and take it. All right? Because we've been around for a week and a half. That's all. And you want to know what we've done in a week and a half? We've organized 2 protests in 1 week. We've organized hundreds of East Texans.
We reached over 15,000 people.
We've reached over 15,000 people through our social media.
Woo!
One of the most important things that we've done this in a week, actually this was in a week that we did this, is we organized regional leaders throughout Texas who are part of the Free Texas, the Open Texas movement. We organized them. We started that because we know that this is so important on a local and regional level. We know that we are not going to get people to Austin, to Little California as I like to call it, unless we organize regionally. And that's what we did. We have regional leaders in every single part of this state, except West Texas. And West Texas needs a leader. Bad.
Their leaders are in
So
jail.
y'all let us know who wants to lead West Texas. Give me a call, and I'll hook you up. What else? We know also that we have to start paying attention to our local elections. If you have learned anything through this, it's that care less, I'm not saying don't care, but care less about who's president of the United States and care more about who your sheriff is.
Amen.
Care more about who sits on your commissioner's court.
Yep.
Amen.
Because they are the ones who will protect your liberties, your rights under the Constitution in times like this. Or they're going to violate them. So that's what we're seeing. Who violates them and who stands up. So pay attention to your local elections. And I was down in Austin. I was in my 3rd protest in I think about 10 days down there. And it just hit me. I had the thought, and I get lots of thoughts. And together at East Texas Freedom Coalition, we put all of our thoughts into action. And I had the thought that this movement has to start locally. My name is Kristen Bentley. I'm with East Texas Freedom Coalition. We are here to get your voices heard because we care about y'all. We care about freedom. And all of y'all are so important to our republic in maintaining our freedom. In case y'all didn't know, I'm a daughter of the Republic of Texas. And that means a lot to me, so I'm going to say it a lot. Because a lot of Texas has lost its identity, and that's troubling. And I think that's part of why this is happening here. But we still have it, and that's why it hasn't been as bad here as it has been in other places. I moved out of Texas when I was 12 years old. I went to California. I spent 30 years in California. And this time last year, we took our first trip to Tyler, and that was because we were on a mission to get the hell out of that commie state. It was a beautiful place when I moved there. I miss Texas like you wouldn't believe because I am a Texas girl through and through. But I did learn to love San Diego, and that state has absolutely been ruined because people haven't been paying attention. And if we think it's bad here, what we're going through, California is 1,000 times worse. I think that I was so determined to get out of there because I know that I am meant to be here right now in this time, in this place, and I am here to fight for the Republic of Texas, the Republic that my ancestors came before this was part of the United States to settle, to develop a republic. We have a veteran here today, a veteran of war. I think we have more than one veteran of war. They have fought to save our republic. It is time for us to all do our part to make sure that our republic does not go down. And I'm at the point where if the rest of the United States goes down, Texas can't.
Amen.
Texas will not.
Amen.
Texas will not go down. And we have to fight for it for our children. And so it is time for men to get involved. We've got Stewart Rhodes, guys. Stewart Rhodes is here and with Oath Keepers.
Hey, thanks for having me out. Appreciate it. It's good to see grassroots people developing their own organizations, grassroots. And of course, you should expect the mainstream media to call you fringe. That's one of their ways of trying to silence you or suppress your reach or to marginalize you. And I know what that's like. Right out of the gate, I started Oath Keepers back in 2009, and right out of the gate, we were attacked by left-dominated media and groups like Southern Poverty Law Center because they don't want Americans, especially military police, thinking about the constitutionality of the orders they're being given. They just want them to be submissive and just do what they're told. And it was kind of a bizarre experience for me. I used to work for Ron Paul. You guys know who he is. I worked for him in his office in Congress. And then after that, I went on to become a law student at Yale Law School. I was in a class in the morning at 9/11 hit. So 2001, I'm at Yale Law School and 9/11 hits. And I saw the immediate reaction. This is why I'm bringing this in, is because it relates to what's going on now. In times of emergency, Americans, or all people around the world, tend to accept more restrictions on their liberty in times of emergency because they're afraid or they're angry. In case of 9/11, it was fear and anger at who attacked us. So I see that pattern throughout American history. Go back and look at things that were done during the Civil War that were unconstitutional, like Lincoln suspending habeas corpus all on his own without Congress's approval, detaining American citizens as unlawful combatants by the hundreds, tried by military tribunal. All that was actually unconstitutional. Then later, after the war was over, the Supreme Court put that genie back in the bottle and said that was unconstitutional. Well, post 9/11, we saw the exact same behavior. We saw President Bush pushing through the Patriot Act, and of course, bipartisan. So you know your rights are about to be violated whenever it's bipartisan Congress. That's when you need to hold on to your hat. So we saw some pretty egregious and very dangerous violations of the Constitution in the name of fighting the war on terror, including the FBI being allowed to write their own warrants. Just a general search warrant. That rings a bell. That's one of the reasons why the American colonists rebelled against the king. So, and of course, the thing I wrote about when I was a student at Yale Law School was the attention of American citizens in military attention. Jose Padilla and Yasser Hamdi. And when I was writing about this and standing up and saying in class that this is unconstitutional, I had both the conservative professors and the liberal professors telling me that this is somehow okay. And my liberal professor, my procedure professor, I had to convince him, I had to show him that this was being used, this extraordinary rendition program and detention program was being used to facilitate torture of human beings overseas in these black operations sites in Turkey, for example. I had to show and prove to him that this was facilitating torture before he would then oppose it. He didn't oppose it on constitutional grounds. He only opposed it because I showed it was being used to facilitate torture. Now, I bring that up because the threshold question should always be, is this constitutional? Not whether do I think it's a good idea or a bad idea. It should be, is it constitutional? Now, why is that the first question? Because the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. That's what our Constitution itself says. Article 6, it says, the Constitution and the laws enacted pursuant to the Constitution are the supreme law of the land. Any state constitution or law notwithstanding, which means that a state can't override the U.S. Constitution.
That's right.
The U.S. Constitution is up here. Acts of Congress that are constitutional come next. If they aren't constitutional, go back to see number one. It must be constitutional. But only if they're constitutional, they are then the supreme law of the land. And then the states can't override that. So here in Texas, for example, when your governor issued an order that said we're going to have essential and non-essential businesses and activities, make that determination, and then you delegated that to your state judges, or your local judges, and your commissioners' courts, was Governor Abbott's order itself constitutional?
No.
No, why not?
Because it goes against the Constitution.
Well, the threshold question should be, when you're looking at that kind of behavior, is A, what do you have here in Texas? It's a republic, right?
Yeah.
What is a Republican form of government? What's that mean?
Constitutional republic.
That's right. Actually, you're correct. Constitutional republic. But Article 4, Section 4 says the federal government has the duty, shall guarantee to each state a Republican form of government. Well, what is a Republican form of government? Well, part of it is representation, right? And she's correct. It's not pure democracy. It's under a constitution. What's another important element of a Republican form of government that's established both in the federal constitution, but also here in Texas in your state constitution? What would that be? Yes, you the people are sovereign, but then it also sets up how many different branches of government? 3. Legislative, executive, and judicial. Who makes the law?
The legislature.
The legislature makes the law. Does the executive branch make the law?
No.
That's the threshold problem. Right out of the gate. And James Madison once, he wrote in the Federalist Papers, he said, and I'm going to paraphrase it, not going to quote in front of me, but he said, when all powers are held in the same set of hands, whether an individual or a group, that is the very definition of tyranny. And so, whatever the good intentions of Governor Abbott, and I'm picking on him because we're in Texas, but it goes for all of them, and it goes for President Trump too. Whatever their good intentions, if what they're doing violates the Constitution, it's null and void from inception. The Supreme Court said that many times. The legislature makes the law, not the governor. And like Shelley Luther's lawyer said the other day, I interviewed him when he came back out after she was arrested in her contempt of court hearing. He came out and interviewed him and said, hey, first question is where's the law? He said, well, no, there's no law in the Texas statutes that lets them determine essential and non-essential. It doesn't exist.
That's right.
He said if the governor thought that he needed to have a law, what he should have done is called a special session of the Texas legislature to then enact the law that he thinks he needs. That's the whole point. He can call an emergency convening of the legislature to sit down and do what he thinks is necessary. But can he act outside of that?
No.
He cannot. When any officer, from the President of the United States right down to through the governors, to your local sheriff, to your commissioner's court, local dog catcher, when they step outside of the Constitution, they are no longer clothed in their office. They are acting like a private individual.
That's right.
They are naked when it comes to their power. They have no power outside the Constitution. That's the whole point of the Supremacy Clause. Now, what else is in Article 6? Along with declaring that the Constitution and laws enacted pursuant to it are supreme law of the land, what else does Article 6 say? You guys know what it says. What's it say? Every officer of every branch, legislative, executive, and judicial, must take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. In the federal, every officer in federal and state. And that's exactly why. Who here has served in law enforcement? Raise your hand if you serve law enforcement. Nobody? How many here served in the military? Raise your hand. What'd your oath say? I'll support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yep.
And your law enforcement officers take the same oath. In fact, the founders required in Article 6 that everybody, the entire chain of command, from the president all the way down, the Supreme Court justices, the U.S. Supreme Court, everyone in Congress raises their hand and swears that oath, whether they believe it or not, whether they're doing so with their fingers crossed behind their back. But they all take that oath. And so did everybody else. Your judge took it, your sheriff took it, every deputy here took it. Now why? If their duty and responsibility is just to do whatever they're told to do until a judge somewhere says it's not okay, then their oath should have been, I swear that I will support and defend whatever I'm told to do until a judge says no. Or I swear that I will support and defend whatever the judge says. Is that their oath? No. And if the Constitution only means what the judges say it means, then the oath should have been, I swear, the Supreme Court, when they swore in, every one of them, Roberts, Thomas, Ginsburg, every one of them swore that they will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Well, if the Constitution only means whatever they say, then they should have sworn, they should have said, hey, I swear to uphold and defend whatever I decide is right, whatever the majority of the court decides is right. Now, throughout American history, has that court been wrong? Oh yeah, many times. Dred Scott, where they said that a freed black man in the North could not be a citizen, that was wrong.
Right.
Versus Ferguson, where they said that separate but equal on the trains was somehow constitutional and did not violate equal protection. Was that right or was that wrong?
Wrong.
Wrong. Korematsu, where they detained American citizens of Japanese descent in detention camps in World War II. And in the middle of that war, just an example of where the court steps on it, in the middle of the war, in the middle of the emergency, they ruled that that was somehow constitutional, even though it obviously violated the constitutional rights of due process, equal protection of the laws, and the fundamental rights of liberty of American citizens. Detained without trial. There's no jury trial, there's no crime. Yet they're all stuck over there in the desert in Arizona and Utah in concentration camps. But the court found a way to make it okay. Why? Because they thought that was what was needed because it was wartime. But they were wrong. Courts can be wrong. Don't forget that. When the Supreme Court, under Bush, during the Bush administration, ruled that Yasser Hamdi, an American citizen, can be detained in military tribunal, or military detention and tried by military tribunal, was that right? No.
No.
Wrong. And so we are still living with a situation where the court is still making mistakes in time of emergency. And here we are again in yet another time of emergency where you're seeing the same pattern of behavior across the board in government. You've got President Trump issuing a guidelines to the DHS. The DHS is saying that, hey, these guidelines on what's essential and non-essential businesses and essential and non-essential activities is here. It's not, hey, we're not telling you what to do. It's not an order. But you state level people, you governors, you county commissioners, you sheriffs, you could go ahead and use these guidelines as you see fit in your states to deal with coronavirus.
Throw the ball too.
Exactly. And so they just gave them that and said, hey, you go do it. And then Abbott did it. And it was wrong to do that. He didn't get a chance to make law.
Nope.
Neither does your county judge, neither does your county, your commissioner's court, neither does your sheriff. None of them can make law. They have to go through the legislature of Texas. And then they can also not violate your rights. And now you can get into, even if they had passed a statute somewhere in Texas that said we could differentiate between essential and non-essential during emergencies, like, okay, what about equal protection of the laws? How's that comport with equal protection? And also, I would call it void for vagueness. It's so vague. How do you know what is essential and non-essential? It's whatever Abbott says. Or here locally, it's whatever your judge says. What's the criteria? Whatever he thinks is right. So like in New Mexico, the governor there decided that gun stores were not essential and shut all the gun stores, but all the pot stores were wide open. And I'm totally in favor of that. I'm in favor of legalization of marijuana.
Oh, no.
But the point is she's picking and choosing. She's picking the winners and losers. You see the same exact thing right here in Texas. Right down to your county level, you're seeing them picking winners and losers. And who's still open? Who's winning? Walmart, Costco. So when this is over, you're going to have boarded up Main Street, mom and pop businesses out of business and wiped out.
Yep.
But Costco and Walmart will be the last man standing.
Yep.
Now, why is that? Because they're politically connected, right?
Yep.
Oh, well, hey, they're essential. Why are they essential? So why can't I go and like I'm down in Midtown, Texas right now, sort of staying for about a month. One of our board members there, one of our leadership, was a retired Houston PD detective who is the current constable in Midtown. And you made a point. It's like, hey, why can't I go into the local store that sells pots and pans and buy what I need, get the one thing I need? Isn't that safer actually than going into Walmart where you got thousands of people and all kinds of germs? Everyone's been touching everything you're touching.
Exactly.
Label, smells, you put it back down. I'm trying to minimize my exposure. I'd rather go into that one little store and find what I really need. So, as a practical matter, it don't make any sense. But you shouldn't have to argue that your business is practically necessary.
Right.
It's not the USSR. We're not living in Venezuela. This is the United States. So they took the concept, and I've got one of our guys he's a retired colonel. He was the 5th Army liaison to FEMA, John Siemens, lives down in San Antonio. And he said, hey, what they did is they took the government protocols for preservation of services. Hey, we'll make sure the power stays on and the roads stay open and that the water's still running and things like that. Those were government coming in to help make sure that those critical things stay open. They took that and they flipped it on its head. Instead of, we're going to come for the government, we're here to help keep you open, it's you can be open if you are one of these things, and otherwise you got to shut down. They turned it on its head. And what's been the effect? What's been the actual effect on the streets? Destruction. Destruction of small businesses across America. And consolidation of more power and more money into the hands of the fat cats on Wall Street that run these big corporations. When I saw all these big corporations standing on the podium next to President Trump, I was not happy. Okay? Because what is actual fascism? Mussolini defined fascism as the marriage of big government and big business. That's what fascism is. It's a combination of big government and big business. It's that club George Carlin talked about. It's a club that you ain't in it.
Right.
More of that right now. It's an important club, a big club. It's a big club, but you ain't in it.
Mm-hmm.
Across the country, I see the same pattern. Local fat cats doing the same thing that's happening in Washington, D.C. The local fat cats, they make sure that their business is open or their buddy's business while you get shut down. And they get to prance around and pretend like they're doing you a favor. Threshold question, is it constitutional? Then you can talk about, well, why? And why did the founders want to limit that kind of power and not have power held in one set of hands? Because they had just lived through what that was like. And it was corruption. It was fascism. The East India Company, was that a private company or was that a government? What was that? It was a marriage of the two. It was the big fat cats that ran India like a slave colony, brought their tea over to the United States, and then they wanted to make sure that the Americans had to buy their tea only. It was them enforcing their monopoly. Nothing changed under the sun. We're living under the same problem they face. That's why it takes eternal vigilance. That is the requirement. That's why you got to hold them to account, and you got to purge them out, whether they're Republican or Democrat. I don't care what their label is, whether they call themselves a conservative or a liberal, whatever their label is. Do they take the Constitution seriously? And do they defend it? Do they secure your rights? That's their primary job. There's nothing in there in the oath saying, I will do whatever I think I need to keep you safe. You want to be safe? You want to be kept safe? Go to China, someplace like that. But you won't be safe either. As Ben Franklin said, those who will give up essential liberty for security, or preferred security, shall deserve neither and shall have neither. So you got to stand up right now. You got to call your governor out, and you got to call President Trump out too. He should be rescinding that order. When I saw the Attorney General of the United States Bar saying, "Oh, we're going to start looking into possible violations of constitutional rights," and all the Trump supporters were like, "Oh, right, he's our guy." I'm like, what? The entire concept of a non-essential business or non-essential activities in the first place is a violation of my rights.
Yes.
You asserting the authority to decide what I do that you think is essential, I'm allowed to do, what you think is non-essential, and then telling all the other big wigs across the country at every level they can do that same thing. This is not freaking Cuba. It's not the Soviet Union.
And to shut the nation down on an opinion, because that's what it came down to.
Well,
it was not science, it was not fact, it was an opinion.
That's right.
Which goes back to
That's
the whole
right.
point. In the Soviet Union, they had Well, of course, Stalin starved people on purpose, but they also had people starving because of management of bureaucrats, trying to decide up here what everyone should be doing across the country like a bunch of ants. Same problem they had in China, same problem they had in Cambodia. That mindset leads to failure. You try to micromanage, you can't micromanage an economy. You try to tell people what they can and can't do down to the micro level. You get the absurdity we saw in Michigan, where you had seeds taped off. You can't buy seeds today. Well, why not? Well, they're not essential. Are you kidding me? It's time to start planting our gardens. If you're out of work, how are you going to feed your family if you don't use a garden? It's just insanity. But she knows best. And every day, I saw it in Texas too, everyone's like, it's kind of like Groundhog Day. Is the groundhog going to see a shadow today? So now it's like, let's go see what the governor says today. Well, the governor, whose business is going to die today? You know, what head's going to get chopped off? Who's going to be redeemed and raised back up? The governor will tell us today. Let's all go see what the governor says today. Let's go see what the president says today. But we can and can't do. That's not the country that I supported or I served in the military.
That's right.
I took my oath for the first time. I raised my right hand. I was sworn into the Army. And I served as a paratrooper. The second time, when I swore into the lawyer. Which one's more important to me? Absolutely right. You have a duty, especially you go to your prior service, but every one of us, the founders never expected, there's never supposed to be a separation between the military and the people, between law enforcement and the people. Who is supposed to be the security of the free state? The people in one institution, the militia. So they never expected to have, but they were distrustful of standing armies. Okay? They didn't have the provisions of the Constitution for raising a Navy and raising an Army, and we had an Army since 1775. But they also understood that that itself could be dangerous. Why? Because when you're a professional, when your life, your career, your retirement, your pension, your identity is all wrapped up in being that professional, what does that do to you? It causes you to be more likely to go along. That's just human nature. You understood that. Doesn't mean you're off the hook. Okay? Everyone swears an oath, like when Colonel West swore his oath. Professional military men, they could be a career guy like John Siemens was, 30 years in the Army. But they're still under that oath obligation. But the founders knew human nature. So the same thing applies to police. When you got a police officer who is a professional police officer, and that's his career, he's under a lot of pressure to feed his family, to have that pension ready for when he